and catch good vibes. Feel the sway of the breeze, let it take you to ecstasy. Up and away, let it take you away and catch good vibes. Feel the sway of the breeze, let it take you to ecstasy. Up and away, let it take you away and catch good vibes. Vibes. Catch good vibes. Vibes. Whatever it is that makes you smile as warm as June when it's mid-December. Just take it all in. Loving a hue that you exude is such a sweet surrender. Life short, so please remember, just catch good vibes. Feel the sway of the breeze, let it take you to ecstasy. Up and away, let it take you away and catch good vibes. Feel the sway of the breeze, let it take you to ecstasy. Up and away, let it take you away and catch good vibes. She's in love with the night. Every single night she be out in the club. Every single night she be out choosing love. She don't know anything about love. She don't know anything about trust. Champagne, shawty go at her own pace. Don't play by the rules, she do her own thing. She don't want your heart, she just want one night. She just wanna get off and have a good time. Oh, shawty ain't looking for the one. No, she not looking for my love. She just wanna get drunk and fuck. She's in love with the night. With the night, love with the night, with the night. When the moon comes out, she's alive. Can cut the tension with the night, They just want one night. She drowning in liquor, she drowning in liquor, she feeling herself. Don't need a nigga, a part of the picture. She want it, she get it, she kill it herself. So she wants some dick, then I give her some help. She yell out the guy when I'm giving her hell. That shit never fails. Back shot, she never kiss her tail. No ass shots, you know that shit's so real. Yeah, and we ain't got nothing to lose. Cause once the night is done and we done had enough, we both just be keeping it moving, yeah. She just in love with the night. Love how Bacardi go down with the ice. Baby too bad, she don't never play nice. Probably never had a real one in her life. Shawty ain't looking for the one. No, she not looking for love. She just wanna get drunk and fuck. She's in love with the night. She's in love with the night. When the moon comes out, she's alive. Can cut the tension with the night. Love with the night. Something about you, your voice is all in my head. I cannot stop thinking about what we did. Oh, what we did.
What's up, guys? Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to figure out why is it white screen on some of your devices, right? All right, guys, it's a very good evening to all of you. So we have been playing that video for quite a bit. I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is Smartcademy. If you haven't really read the emails that we have sent you yet, or the Facebook or Instagram post, basically we are they are just doing a lot to do with digital side of it, right? So it's a website, it's, you know, like the poster banner says, UX design and stuff like that. So please do check them out, because one of the cool thing is that a big portion of the cost is claimable in terms of getting the rebate. And so, you know, you may pay like a few $1,000s at first, but if you complete the requirement, you can then get a rebate on it. And the minimum, if I'm not wrong, if you qualify, would be 70%, as long as you're like a Singaporean and a PR. And of course, to claim like 90% or 100%, then you would have to be like above a certain age. But then again, you know, whether COVID is here or not, I think we all agree that digital stuff is definitely very relevant and relatable. And in fact, if you don't feel like you need to use that, then you probably will get outdated as well. Because these days, a lot of 22-year-old are the ones that are making $100,000 just because they know how to do, you know, website design, UX design, a lot of digital marketing. So give this a try. Definitely go and find them out. I was just reading it myself. I thought of signing up myself. It's on Saturday and Sunday, so you know, it's like 3 hours across 6 lessons. So it's gonna be very easy, very bite-sized. You know, the course that I usually conduct is 8 hours straight, and then they're doing like in 3 hours format. So it's definitely something that you wanna go check them out. At least click onto the website, open it up and see what it is about. And then if you feel like it's for you, then go ahead and sign up. If it's not, then of course you can always come back to their website another day. And just to be clear, I'm not getting paid for promoting. For you guys signing up, I don't get paid, right? It's just me pushing for them because they sponsor the event. And of course, we choose the sponsors very carefully. So in the past, we have sponsors like Red Bull and stuff like that. So we are very careful with who we work with. And of course, we felt that they were really, really relevant. And of course, with the government subsidizing a big part of it, if you're eligible for the whole program, I think it just makes a lot of sense. So give it a shot. You know, most of the courses out there is 5,000-10,000, and probably they wouldn't even work, right? At least you get a rebate and stuff like that. A lot of introduction, which is going to be really, really helpful. All right. So today we're going to have Jirayut, which in short we call him Top. He's going to be talking to us in a short bit, in 5 minutes. I just sent him the link. Hopefully he can join us very shortly. For those of you who are inside, please, if you can, send the link out to your friends so that they can join us on this session. And of course, again, don't miss the next two as well, because Eileen is going to speak and then Brian Tracy is going to speak as well, right? So Eileen is going to be this coming Saturday. Brian Tracy would be on June 20th, right? So let's just wait for a little bit more for Top to come in, and then we can just start shortly.
Turn me on.
Everybody shout. This is house. They know what is house, but they don't know what is house. Everybody shout. This is house. They know what is house, but they don't know what is house. Everybody shout. This is. They know, but they don't know. They know, but they don't know. They know, but they know, but they don't know. They know what is house. Bomb drop.
Hi everyone. Hi Pop.
Hi Will, how are you?
I am good. I'm good. Is there any way that you can switch on the video, or do I have to press something to make it happen?
Yes, the host has to disable first before I can turn on the video.
Okay. All right. I think we can start. Hey, hello. It's
Hello.
been a while. How's everything in Thailand?
Busy. We have been adjusting to this COVID situation. A lot is happening,
Okay.
but for us, we have, we didn't get affected as much compared to traditional industries.
Yeah, okay. So we will get into that very shortly, because then we would ask all the way from the start. But let me just give a quick introduction about you to the attendees who are with us today. So if you are watching via Zoom, you can just share this Zoom link out with your friends. If you are watching this via Facebook, you can also share the link on your Facebook page. We would appreciate that a lot, because who I got here is a very special guy. Well, his actual name is Jiraju, but we just call him Top, right? So basically, he's the co-founder and group CEO of Big Cup Capital Group. He has dedicated the majority of his career in cryptocurrency and blockchain technology industry. So he actually co-founded coins.co.th, which is the largest Bitcoin exchange. Before blockchain emerged, Top worked as an investment banker, financial consultant, central banker. He is a speaker and one of Thailand's leading Bitcoin and open blockchain expert. He holds a master in philosophy and economics from Oxford University. Now he's the co-founder and group CEO at Big Cup Capital Group Holding, a company that holds the title as the startup with the largest seed investment in Thai history. Okay, so he is also a board of director at the FinTech Association. So thank you very much, Top, for joining us tonight.
Thank you for inviting me, Will. It's a pleasure.
All right. Okay. So let's just get started, right? I think before we even get onto this session many weeks ago, when I was trying to put the speakers together, I did brought up to my team, and I mentioned that, there's this guy who is very interesting. I met him at a friend's wedding, and he's in this cryptocurrency field? Do you think people will be interested and stuff like that? And so very quickly we garnered a lot of interest actually. So a lot of people say they want to come. So for a lot of them, they just gonna enter the room along the way. So hopefully there will be more as well. But anyway, even for myself, because you know that I run Trading Academy as well, I teach people how to do it, but not really in the crypto field. So personally, for myself, I think this is very interesting. I want to pick your brains and find out more about cryptocurrency. But before we really start, right? Can you just give us a bit of background about yourself? About your time with Oxford to begin with. Then, of course, after you graduate, you move on to being a banker and all this. Maybe you can give us a little bit of background, like the timeline, so we can follow with you as well.
Sure. So I was actually a pretty bad student when I was younger. I always got into fights when I was younger. It was so bad that my parents sent me to New Zealand for my high school because the environment was so bad. So they thought I would need to change the environment to get better. So I finished my high school in New Zealand. Still wasn't good academically. I was focusing on sports most of the time. Then I realized that I could not get into any of the Thai university. So that was like a shock for me. So luckily, there is this 1 year gap between New Zealand academic year and the UK academic year. So I had about 9 months gap. Luckily, I was able to apply to the UK universities. Back then, we used the system called UCAS, where you can only pick 5 university choices. So you need to carefully select based on your performance. If you select too high, then you might end up with no place to study. If you select it too low, then you're wasting your opportunity cost here. Yeah. So I was a bit gutted because when I was looking at the university tables, I wanted to put down all the top ones, but I didn't dare to put the top ones in because my grades were so bad. So that was like that left like a bad footprint on my heart for some reason. So luckily, fortunately, I got into Manchester University for my undergraduate career. Then I decided to change myself, from being a very bad student to actually entering the library for the first time in my life. So I studied very hard until I graduated. Then luckily I was able to get into Oxford. So still spend most of my time in the library, habitating in the library, camping out in the library. Then after graduation, after my master's degree, I decided to go to China to start my investment banking career. Back then, China was booming. All the companies were booming. So it was a very good opportunity to take Chinese companies public in the US, cross-border M&A and IPO. That was back in 2013. Then when I was working in Shanghai, which is the financial district of China, I discovered this thing called Bitcoin in 2013. A lot of people in the office back then didn't understand what Bitcoin was. First of all, they haven't heard of it. Secondly, they thought it was a Ponzi scheme or drug money. But I got interested in this technology and decided to read further. And this one article changed my life, called "Why Bitcoin Matters," written by Mark Anderson, a New York Times article in 2013. So I got to see the other dimension that most people didn't see about cryptocurrency. That was when I was just a freshly graduate student, exploring what I like, what I dislike, exploring about discovering myself. So after a few months of working, I found out IB is not my thing, or corporate job is not my thing. So I decided to fly to San Francisco to maybe give myself another chance. So I applied for the financial consultant job. But ideally, back then, I wanted to see Silicon Valley because I got interested in technology now. So every weekend in SF, I would drive to Silicon Valley to walk around Google campus, Facebook campus, but I could not work there because I read economics at school, and all the top kids from top universities all went and worked for Google, Facebook. Couldn't get a job. The nearest job I could get was as a financial consultant in the Bank of America Merrill Lynch building. I was working in a boutique financial consulting firm. But every weekend I would spend in the Silicon Valley exploring tech worlds. After a few weeks, I found out I had enough research already. Consulting is not for me. So I decided to fly back and started my first fintech company, Bitcoin company called CoinCoth. And it's been through a lot. People didn't understand. I founded the company in 2014. I had to explain to my parents what I was doing, explain to Bank of Thailand, explaining to anti-money laundering officers, explaining to revenue departments how to pay taxes on these new things. So
Yeah.
I've been through a lot of crises. It was a very painful but rewarding experience. And eventually, it was a good venture. Then this is my second company now. I'm the co-founder and group CEO of BitCup. We are the largest cryptocurrency exchange, fully regulated cryptocurrency exchange, the largest one in Thailand, and also the biggest blockchain company in the country. And one of the very profitable, fast-growing fintech company in Thailand. We are one of the 3 companies that got the license, special license from the Ministry of Finance to allow Thai people to come in and buy and sell digital currency legally. But our company accounts for 95% of all the cryptocurrency transaction in the country. So mostly everyone is using BitCup
So,
in
so
Thailand.
basically, you monopolize the Thai market actually.
We
I mean, the remaining 5% is split between the 2 companies, right?
I mean, we have 3 companies, right? But we focus on delivering the best product and services for customers, and word of mouth is probably the best marketing tools, and that's how we deliver value to customers, and we were able to win over the market.
So just something I heard you talking about it, because you said that you went to San Francisco, right? And then you were trying to go to, like the Valley every week. Like, what were you trying to do? Are you trying to absorb the atmosphere? Like, is it, the power of attraction, or what is it that you were really doing there?
I urge everyone to visit San Francisco. It's a very different environment. When you even go to a pub there and you talk to people inside the pub, I bet everyone that you talk to, they are entrepreneurs, and they would be very they would tell you what they're going to change about the world, what their company is about. It's a very interesting place. It's a unique experience. I learned so much about entrepreneurship mindset there, about the technology world. It's even the bus stop there, the timetable is they're using Twitter for the bus timetable on the bus stop. It's a very interesting city. And I even met with one of the PayPal executive. His name is Dan Schatz. I met with him in a pancake shop in San Francisco. Someone introduced him to me, in a weekend, in one of the weekends there, and I was asking him if Bitcoin, this Bitcoin thing is going to take off, and he was like, do you know the actual purpose of PayPal when they first founded the company? They didn't start the company just because they want to become a payment tool. They actually wanted to create a digital dollar back then, but the technology is not ready. The environment wasn't ready. But in your generation, there's this thing called blockchain. The internet access is much better than in the past. Mobile phone penetration is great. This is the future, I mean, you get to speak to these, visionary leaders. It's a very interesting place to. I urge everyone to visit.
Was he the guy that kind of gave you the confirmation that you were on the right track? To hear
Yeah,
from
so-
him, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, you didn't realize at the time, but that's when you connect the dots backward and you realize that all these different events are shaping you, like of who you will become, like, who you are now because
Yeah.
of these unique life events that you encounter during on the way.
And yeah, go ahead.
So that kind of reinforced my belief in cryptocurrency, while the rest of the world was wrong about Bitcoin back then.
But then again, many people were right as well because it made them really, really rich. They invested a lot in them. Now, you were mentioning coins, .co.th, right? And then BitCup. Like, what is the difference between these two companies?
Coins is a Bitcoin wallet, not an exchange.
Ah,
So in the US, I think the best comparison would be Coins has this Coinbase business model, where BitCup has this Binance business model. We're in the exchange. We have 30 other cryptocurrencies listed for people to transact and trade.
okay. So anyway, a lot of people that are in here today, they know that we're gonna talk about cryptocurrency, right? So you gave us a very, very good platform as to how you started and a little bit. So now start to tell us a little bit. I don't know if you want to start with Bitcoin or crypto, but what is it actually about, and why do you think it's the future? Like, why in 2014 you found out this thing and then you came back to Thailand and then you started doing all this, so what is the beauty about this whole cryptocurrency wave?
I mean, what is the biggest nation on earth? When I ask this question to everyone, they would say China is the biggest nation on earth. They have the most population on earth. But if you think about this carefully, actually the biggest nation on earth is the internet nation, not China. People, way more people got access to the internet now, right? I think in 2020, over 5 billion people will get access to the internet. But in China, we have this currency called Chinese yuan to circulate things around, right? Medium of exchange, acting as a medium of exchange.
Sure.
In the United States, we have this dollar, right? Acting as a medium of exchange to circulate things within the United States, which is a centralized economy. In Singapore, we have Singapore dollar. In Thailand, we have Thai baht as a medium of exchange to circulate things around. What about the internet nation? What is its currency, right? But this internet nation is different from China or the United States or Singapore or Thailand because it's decentralized. It's not a centralized economy. It's a decentralized economy. What does that mean? I mean, if China were to close down the internet, Thai people can still get on the internet, right? If the United States were to get off the internet, Singaporean people can still use the internet. It's decentralized. Then we need its currency that matches its nature, decentralized nature. That's when, enter cryptocurrency. That's when cryptocurrency comes in. It is a medium of exchange for the biggest nation on earth, which is the internet, which is decentralized. So we need a decentralized digital currency. And what did I see about, Bitcoin back then? Payment has been broken for a long time, traditional finances. For example, like we are able to get on Skype, on Zoom, and call each other for free now, right?
Yeah.
Back then, we used to pay like 30 baht or 60 baht per minute for international phone calls. Enter the internet, right? Everyone is now doing international phone calls for free. But look at the financial industry. When we're sending value across the internet, we're still paying 5%, 10% fee. Actually, the average fee calculated by the IMF recently, it's standing at 7% international transaction fee, right? That's for those with bank accounts. What about those without bank accounts? Look at people in the ASEAN region, for example, right? Indonesia has about 300 million population, maybe, and 150 million people are unbanked, has no bank accounts. Or even in the Philippines, you know, Philippines, they're exporting labors, right? And they need to, you know, every end of the month, they would stand in line to wire half of their paychecks back home to feed their extended family at home. Right? To remittance market is huge in the Philippines. On average, every Filipino they are working 13 months per year instead of 12 months per year, because this extra month is the Western Union fee. Right? They're charging 10 to 15% on every single one of those transactions out of the poorest people in the world, right? Pockets of the poorest people in the world. With digital currencies, you can lower the fee by an order of magnitude. Right? It is the internet of money. We had the internet of information already in the last 20 years. Now, regardless of your income, everyone can call each other for free. We don't need to pay this 30 baht, 60 baht per minute for international phone calls. But currently in the financial world, financial services are still the privilege of the upper class, right? People with less income, they cannot open a bank account because they're not the profitable group that banks can onboard them. The cost of maintaining bank accounts versus the value that banks can derive from these groups of people, it's not worth it for the bank. That's why half of the population in this region are unbanked. And they have no other choices. They had to go to Western Union and pay 10%, 15% fee because they don't have a bank account. And they have to borrow money from loan sharks, 20% interest per month. When we're complaining already 7% interest per year. I mean, financial system has been broken for a long time. And I believe that the internet of value is coming to fix this, or the open financial web is going to fix this, just like the open information web did in the last 20 years to the telcos industry, to the information sharing sector.
Now, just now you mentioned about saving of fees. That one I kind of agree, because I think Bitcoin was, at that point of time, they did a transfer with Ripple, Ethereum, something similar to Bitcoin as well in terms of the functions. I think it was down to 0 point something percent for the transfer. And also it took like just a couple of seconds, if not more than how long. I know it was a relatively short time. Now, so in that sense, I think if you talk about the function of cryptocurrency and specifically Bitcoin in this case, it will kind of make sense. But one thing I would like to ask you as well is this. Now, assuming like I am in Singapore or like I'm in Thailand right now, if I want to transfer to you 5,000 baht, right? I go to the bank, I transfer 5,000 baht. Well, they charge me a fee for that. Maybe, you know, bank to bank in Thailand is not as much or even free sometimes. But if I transfer 5,000 baht to you, you are going to receive exactly 5,000 baht, right? Whether there is fluctuation between Forex of different country currency on the outside, that is another question. But between me and you, I want you to have 5,000 baht. I transfer to you, you will receive 5,000 baht. Now, my question is actually like, if it's Bitcoin, I have 1 Bitcoin. And then someone over the other side, based on that 1 Bitcoin price, and say that, you know what, for this service, I'm going to charge you 1 Bitcoin. But that 1 Bitcoin at that point of time is probably, let's say, $10,000. And by the time you transfer over, which can be milliseconds or whatsoever, but let's just say, you know, there might be a risk. A $10,000 Bitcoin may drop down to $9,000. So, like, what do you think about this situation whereby, because Bitcoin and a lot of cryptocurrency, after all, is still a medium used for speculation as well. It's not just a medium of wealth, it's also primarily used for speculation. And with that kind of volatility, like, who would want to keep Bitcoin other than the people who trust the technology and thinks that over 2 years' time it's going to increase. So I want to ask your opinion on that, like in terms of the price movement and all this. Is this really a good medium to be like used to transfer money and stuff like that? Yeah.
Sure. So let me separate into two parts. The first one, let's talk about the old world, the current world, right? I would need to challenge you on this, that you're transferring $5,000 back to Thailand and you're not paying any debit loss on that.
No,
Because
okay. Just now my example was if I'm in Thailand, I'm using a Thai account to your Thai account.
Oh, I see. Domestic.
Yeah.
Right. So for the domestic transfer in Thailand, let me give you a quick history. Before, we used to pay 25 baht, 35 baht, about $1 per transaction, right? And the reason was because in the old world or the current system, the banking system is a closed loop system, right? Closed loop system. The green bank here has their own system. The purple bank has their own system. The yellow bank has another system. They have their own languages. They speak their own language. And when you need to transfer money domestically or internationally, you need to pay that translation fee because they have their own system. You need a clearing bank, to settle this. In Thailand, we use the Bank of Thailand. We have this system called the BahtNet system, right, to do interbank transaction. This is the reason why you transfer money on Friday, the money arrives on Monday, because the Bank of Thailand doesn't work on weekends, right? The clearing bank doesn't work on weekends. And there were debit loss in the system. But with this fintech revolution, pressuring the banks, they decided to waive the domestic fee. So now people are doing internal domestic transaction for free. But what about international transfer? Within the banks in Thailand, it's easy because the Bank of Thailand can call 18 banks CEOs to be in one room and said, guys, you need to really serve customers well now. Please remove this domestic fee. What about international transfer? Like, you can't call like every bank CEOs in one room and said, guys, a 5% fee, SWIFT, you have been around since, I don't know, Second World War. Western Union, you've been around since Second World War. Please, you're eating up too much profit here. You need to stop charging ridiculous fee. The average is like 5%, 7% fee. And they said, no, because I'm making a lot of money now. Why would, you guys try to talk to each other because Thai bank speak Thai, right? The UK has their own system. Chinese bank has their own system. Thai banks, they don't trust Chinese banks because they don't know each other, right? Chinese bank never trust the UK banks. We need this, clearing bank. We call it corresponding banks to translate, the translator, because everyone speaks different languages. We need to pay for the translation fee. And they don't do it for free. They do it for 5%, 7% international, transfer fee. And they would have to wait a few weeks because these guys are not very effective, right? For the money to hit another bank account in another country. This is the old system, right? And within the new system, regardless of the price volatility, we're using, instead of using this corresponding banks or international clearing house like SWIFT, we're using internet protocol now to connect between the two banks that speak different languages. Instead of using the middleman, we're using the internet protocol, whether it is Ripple, Bitcoin, or Ethereum. And we're removing this middleman from the ecosystem that is charging crazy fee. With the internet protocol, the two banks can transact value without having to trust each other, right? No one can cheat with the blockchain system. So there is no longer a need to pay for intermediaries, the translator. For example, last week, the Purple Bank in Thailand launched a new feature that allows Thai people to transfer money from Thailand to the UK within 30 seconds, right? Not 30 weeks, not 30 days, not 30 hours, 30 seconds. And you know how much they're paying in fees? 0.05%. 100 times cheaper than 5%. right? That's more than an order of magnitude cheaper. And do people need to know that they're using cryptocurrencies? They don't really need to know, because the Purple Bank humanized the process, right? People will just say, guys, let's download the Purple Bank's app, because you can remit money across to the UK quickly within 30 seconds, and you're paying 100 times cheaper, without realizing that they're using RippleNet program as an underlying internet protocol to connect between the Thai bank and the UK bank, right? And even the Bank of Thailand is pushing the initiatives now, working with the Hong Kong Bank. We call it Intanon, right? The leading tourism destination here. In Hong Kong, they call it Lion Rock Project, to connect between the two countries for remittance, international transfer between banks. So the question was, would the volatility be a factor, right? We can transfer this within a blink of an eye. So whether if Ripple is at $100, $1,000, $10,000, it doesn't matter, because what the flow is this: you convert. Say if David, a person in the US, needs to send money to his wife in Thailand. David needs to send $100 to a Thai bank account. What happens is that David would would work with the remittance company in the US. On the back end, the remittance company, whether it is a Bank of America or retail banks there, they would connect to Bitstamp, for example, right? And they would convert this $100 to say 10 XRP Ripple within seconds, right? And they would send XRP cross-border to BitCup. If you notice, what crosses the border here is not fiat currency. It's XRP that crosses the border. It's the internet protocol that removed the trust, redefined the trust system, right? XRP that crosses the border to BitCup, which is my company on the back end, right? And we would quickly convert this XRP to Thai baht. Then David's wife would receive, 30,000 baht or 3,000 baht, right? If he remits $100, David's wife in Thailand would receive 3,000 baht on her bank accounts right away, without knowing that this whole flow was, used by XRP as an infrastructure. We humanize the whole process. So that's, say, the conversion was between $100 to 10 Ripple. Say, if Ripple price has gone up, it doesn't matter, then $100 would convert to 1 Ripple instead of 10 Ripple. And they would send this 1 Ripple back to Thailand and convert to exactly the same amount of money, 3,000 baht. Right? We are using crypto as a transactional protocol between the untrusted parties here, instead of using a middleman, international clearinghouse, and pay fees to her 7%.
You were mentioning just now that the Purple Bank in Thailand is actually using the Ripple for the transaction?
RippleNet program.
RippleNet, okay.
Yep.
So that is part of the cryptocurrency, the blockchain as well?
There are different phases, right? Phase 1, phase 2. So the next phase is the scalability phase. That's when the XRP would come in. They're testing in different phases.
Now, you mentioned that a lot of things was because that the old way of doing things in the bank was the reason why cryptocurrency is attractive, right? It's faster, it's safer, you save more fees. And then after that, some of the banks decided that, hey, we are getting whacked by cryptocurrency, and now we have to up our game. Will there come a point where the banks can offer equally attractive the speed and the rate as what cryptocurrency can do, to the point that cryptocurrency at this point is no longer as attractive anymore?
Well, the question is, can banks trust each other? Because blockchain redefines trust, right? This is the trust issue here. Unless you are the monopoly and you acquire every single bank into your one network, then transaction speed is not really the issue. The main issue is trust. How do you connect different systems, different states, stakeholders, different parties to work together in a trustless manner, right? in the previous world, they needed corresponding banks as a referee between players, right? Because players fight. Players
So,
don't.
so what you're saying is that the Bank of America and let's say Casicon Bank, they want to transfer money. They don't deal with each other directly. They have a clearing bank
Yes,
between the two of them. And so there will always be, for example, a higher fees or higher inefficiency because there is this middleman. And what you're saying is that cryptocurrency can effectively eliminate whatever that's in between and just get from A to B.
exactly.
Okay. So now, because we have been talking about Bitcoin quite a bit, so actually, by now, some of them, the audience may have some background knowledge about cryptocurrency as well, and all this kind of thing. But can you, in your own words, kind of explain a little bit why is Bitcoin the leader in terms of cryptocurrency? Why? Because Ripple and Ethereum is just behind. Ethereum is often compared to Bitcoin, but I was told that they were created based on different philosophy and purposes. But why Bitcoin is leading, and do you see any other cryptocurrency that has the potential to come close to it? I think the other thing is also like, I think the audience here some of them might be interested to start. But the thing is, they look at, Bitcoin is already so expensive and they would want to find the next $1 to $5 coins. I don't know if it's safe, but you can share with us your opinion and then how we should go and approach, like why Bitcoin is leading right now, and of course how we should approach this whole thing.
Sure. For the second question, I cannot answer. That's a $1 billion question. Right? Who's going to be the winning blockchain? I mean, if I know.
That's actually my question. Once you tell me which coin we can buy, I would definitely buy a lot.
I mean, if I know the answer to this question, I would not open up a company, right? I would not open up BitCup because that's a $1 billion question. So I cannot answer this. But what I can say for sure is that cryptocurrencies are here to stay. I cannot tell you which one is going to be the winner, which one is going to be the losers, because this is an open source, right, system, meaning that people can fork the DNA of the previous blockchain and add new things to it anytime. It's like DNA mutation. So how do you pick which DNA is going to be the one, the winner? It mutates every day, and the winning blockchain is going to be the one with the strongest network. It's like just in the same manner as genetic, right? The strongest DNA survives in the long run. It mutates all the time, DNA. Strongest DNA wins, right? Strongest DNA will survive in the long term. So this is very similar to biological mechanism. Since these are all open source, people can fork different previous DNA and add new things to it anytime and rename the blockchain to another name anytime. That's why we have over 5,600 blockchains or coins in the last, 3 or 4 years, because everyone can fork anytime. But the first and biggest blockchain currently is the Bitcoin blockchain. It came out in 2009, right? The white paper came out in 2008. Written by Satoshi Nakamoto, which we don't really know who this person is. But if you read the white paper, whether this person or a group of people, we don't know who he is or who they are, but he or they must know, quite a few topics in details. Like they must master knowledge in economics to design this white paper. They must be an expert in computer science. They must be an expert in mathematics to understand how the cryptographic hash function works. So I personally, I don't think it's a one person. It's a group of people, maybe Satoshi, because he has this unique knowledge in so many fields.
Maybe Satoshi has the IQ of 300.
I mean, he should deserve a Nobel Prize. What he invented in 2008, and in 2009. We have our first blockchain, early 2009, called Bitcoin blockchain. And the reason why it's the most dominant blockchain is because, cryptocurrencies or blockchain technology shares the same property as the internet companies. The one that are the most valuable are the ones with the largest network, right? For example, if I'm the only person with a fax machine in Thailand, it's useless. I would use this fax machine as a door stopper because no one else can communicate with me. But if the rest of the household has at least one fax machine, then it's becoming very powerful. I can communicate with everyone in Thailand, right? It's the value of the fax machine is not the actual fax machine, but it derives from the network of fax machines. If I'm the only one, I can use it as a door stopper, useless, right? Or Line. You guys use Line in Singapore or WhatsApp,
Yeah, yeah.
right? I mean, if I'm the only person with Line accounts or WhatsApp account, it's useless. Who am I gonna send stickers or talk to every day, right? Line is useful. WhatsApp is useful not because of its software. Software is useless. Anyone can build the software. But the most valuable part is the network, because our friends, our families, our clients are online or on WhatsApp. That's how we communicate with them. Value derives from the network effect. Or like Facebook, it is open source. You can go back tonight and create a top book, localize everything exactly, look exactly the same. Blue color, white text, top book. But who am I going to talk to if I'm the only one using top book when the rest of the world is on Facebook? It's useless. It's not the software. The value derives from the network, right? Facebook has 3.3 billion users on Instagram, on Facebook, on WhatsApp, right? Mark Zuckerberg is like, yeah, I'm open sourcing this. You guys can come and fight me. It's the network, because how do you migrate 3.3 billion people at the same time to a different software? So, but in Thailand, before Facebook became a winner, there's this one company called High Five or MySpace. They were the winner. But for some reason, Facebook was able to migrate the network. So now they are the largest provider with the largest network, and they won the market, right? So very similar. Bitcoin is the most expensive blockchain because everyone is mining, Bitcoin mostly, the highest computing power, in aggregate. It has the most computing power, right? And the network is largest. The number of transactions per day is now at $40,000, $40,000 billion, right, per day in transaction. The reason why Bitcoin is the most valuable because it has the largest network of users. You can go back and fork Bitcoin. You can localize everything with the same properties. Like you can call it Topcoin. Topcoin has 21 million that will end in 2140, exactly the same day. Coming out every 10 minutes. Hash function is out. You can copy exactly the same function, the same properties, but it's useless if no one is using Topcoin. Everyone is on this network, Bitcoin. That's why it is the most valuable blockchain. But your second question is asking me which one is going to be the winner, right? Contender for Bitcoin. Then the answer would be the blockchain that has the best blockchain governance, right? The one with the best blockchain governance can attract developers to keep on, developing the same blockchain going forward without leaving and fork to a new blockchain, right? Keeping the same developers to keep developing the blockchain to be the most useful for people, then it will attract the network of people, of users to it. But the current situation is that this game theory situation or crypto economic situation is not designed for most of the blockchains now because it's open sourced. What does that mean? It means that if I am a developer, I know how to fix the scalability issue on the Bitcoin blockchain. But say I only own 100 Bitcoin, and I realize that if I improve this scalability issue on the Bitcoin blockchain, the price would go up maybe 10%. Then my net capital gain would be 10% on 100 Bitcoin that I own, right? But since everything is open source, I can just fork the Bitcoin NDA to have the same properties and everything but I add the scalability dimension to it. But I own 1% of all the existing coins on the top coin. So now it is more useful than Bitcoin because it has the same property plus the scalability dimension. The first one, the original one, has this scalability issue. The new one looks exactly the same, but without the scalability issue. Then if the network migrates, I have the biggest payout because I own 1% of all the existing top coins instead of 100%, instead of 100 Bitcoin, and the price would go up on average maybe 10%. So most of the developers are more incentivized to fork the existing blockchain and improve the new ones. But the blockchain with the best governance, blockchain governance, would attract the developers to keep developing, keep fixing the old blockchain until it gets better and better, until it becomes the strongest gene, right, to survive in the long run. It would attract the network organically. So I don't know the answer to that question, but in theory, the one, it doesn't have to be the first one. Facebook wasn't the first one. High Five was first in Thailand. Right? But you need to be the one that continuously improving until you have the best product, and the network would migrate to you.
So on your exchange currently, and if it's not too sensitive, I would assume that Bitcoin is the one with the highest volume. And then if you don't mind sharing, what is the second highest and what is the third highest volume cryptocurrency?
So we see the top 3 or 4 coins traded on our exchange. We see Bitcoin for sure, Ethereum, Ether, the token in Ethereum blockchain. We see XRP, Ripple. We see USDT, Tether, USDT, a stable coin, US dollar stable coin. These are the top 4 coins traded on, I think, on almost every exchanges around the world.
Now, a lot of people say that, Ethereum is very competitive when it comes against Bitcoin. Do you think is that way, or do you think Ethereum was created for a different purpose? Because one of the things that we really look at, and I was just talking to a guy recently, also in the crypto field as well, and he said that you must understand one thing about Bitcoin was that the original idea for it to be created, and on the white paper I was saying something that along the line that it was created primarily so that when governments print in excess of a lot of money, then Bitcoin would be used as a protection against hyperinflation. And of course, Bitcoin really, after the COVID crash, and then it really recovered very sharply because the US governments and many other governments have been printing a lot of money ever since. I think by now we are at about $6 or $7 trillion compared to the $2-3 trillion in the 2008 crisis. So that was why I heard from my friend that Bitcoin was really created. Now, Ethereum, on the other hand, wasn't really because of hyperinflation and all this. I heard it was more for a utility function. It was acting as a method of payment. Is that true? And that's question number 1. Then, of course, question number 2 is how close are they in terms of the security? Because if I have an option now, I know that Bitcoin and Ethereum are both good. But knowing that Ethereum is way cheaper, and of course, if you say that Ethereum also has a very huge potential, then of course, investing in Ethereum makes a lot of sense. What's your take on that?
I would not use the word investing. I would use the word speculating, because for these assets, these crypto assets, if you leave them alone, they would not give you dividends. Right? Same as gold. It's just a Yellowstone sitting there, cannot produce any. It's a non-productive asset. I would use the word speculation. Hoping one day that someone else would like this Yellowstone more than me and would offer me at a higher price. It's the same as the big piece of land or Yellowstone gold, right? Silver or cryptocurrency. It's different from investing in stocks. If you're leaving them alone, they would give you. It's a productive asset. It would produce you income, right? Dividends, or renting out condo or apartments or shops. It would give you monthly income. So I would say speculating, hoping one day that someone else would like these assets more than me and offer me at a higher price. So there were a lot of questions there in one question, but let me separate into different things. First of all, about Bitcoin acting as a safe haven or alternative to the monetary system of the world, which is the post-Bretton Woods system, right? Fiat currency. I would say their short-term view, medium-term view, and long-term view. Right? In the short-term view, Bitcoin is acting as a speculative asset, speculative vehicle, right? As in gold, silver, same manner, right? Pumps, dumps, buy, sell, speculative vehicle. But once it reaches a certain usage, a certain network of users, in the medium term, it is starting to become a transactional protocol between countries, like the remittance model that I described earlier. For seconds, right? You only touch crypto for milliseconds to transfer between two countries, to remove the trust issue between different banks or different users of different countries. You are using as a transactional protocol to redefine trust. But in the long run, that's when it's going to become the new monetary system of the world. And the reason why I chopped them up into three pieces, short-term, medium-term, and long-term, is because everything is explanatory in terms of user base. The basic of finance is this: when the user base is small, volatility is high. When the user base gets bigger and bigger, the volatility drops. Right? For those who didn't study finance, who are listening to this interview, I would give you a quick analogy so you understand the picture better. Imagine in the early days, Bitcoin is like a swimming pool, right? And we have this exogenous shock. We call it the fat guy. When a fat guy jumps into the swimming pool, he creates big splash to the swimming pool because the user base is small, the mass is small. But when people, and the reason why Bitcoin is acting as a speculative vehicle in the short term is because we need to expand the user base. People need to get stuck on this price level, so it attracts more and more users. And right now, in the last 10 years, we have over 50 million wallets opened in the last 10 years, right? So now, when Bitcoin is getting more and more user base, it is no longer a swimming pool. It is becoming an ocean, right? And when any exogenous shock or a fat guy jumps into an ocean, he creates nothing, no impact to the ocean. This is basic in finance. It can be applied to gold, can be applied to US dollars. But the reason why we don't really see volatility in gold or US dollars is because gold and US dollars are used as a reserve currency, right? And SDR, special drawing rights, currency issued by the IMF in 1969. So the user base is huge already. It's like oceans. It's becoming an ocean. So imagine if people were to stop using US dollars. Eventually, US dollars would be back to a swimming pool size, and any exogenous shock would, disturb the pricing of US dollars. It's the basic of finance. The larger the user base, the smaller the volatility, right? And that's why there are three phases in Bitcoin. First one, it is acting as a speculative vehicle to increase the user base. Once the user base reaches a certain size, it is now becoming a transactional protocol. Now, believe it or not, when Bitcoin was back in, when the price in 2017 was at its peak at $20,000 per one Bitcoin, people were trading around 13,000 billion, 13,000 million dollars per day. But now people are trading at 40,000 million, right, billion. So 4 times the size, regardless of the price. The user base is getting bigger and bigger. So now people are using Bitcoin as a transactional protocol. Because another thing we need to realize that back then there were not a lot of exchanges, so people can only use it to speculate, to trade. But now exchanges are like Western Union networks. There are exchanges every country now. So that's why the infrastructure is more ready. So people can use these exchanges for money transfer to liquidate quickly, right? Before, if there were no exchanges in Kenya, Africa, I cannot remit money to Kenya. I can only trade Bitcoin in Thailand. But now, after 7 years, there are exchanges in Kenya, right? I can transfer Bitcoin from Thailand to Kenya and liquidate within seconds, right? Within 30 minutes. So I can transfer money across now. So now in the medium term, it is acting as a transactional protocol. But in the long run, once the user base is huge enough in the same size as US dollars or gold, then the price of Bitcoin will become stable, because any fat guy jumps into an ocean, it makes no impact. He makes no impact. So once the key property of a currency must be that it must be stable. The price cannot fluctuate for you to act as a medium of exchange, right? I didn't say medium of exchange in phase 1 or phase 2. Phase 1 is a speculative vehicle. Phase 2 is a transactional protocol. But when it is becoming a medium of exchange, price must be stable. But in order to get there, we need a huge user base. So that's in the long run where we can, add more users. I think in the next 10 years, the number of cryptocurrency wallets would go up to 1 billion users. In the last 10 years, we acquired 50 million users, but we're moving in an exponential world, meaning that in the next 10 years, it's going to be faster, more impactful than in the last 10 years.
Which means indirectly saying that Bitcoin go to 100,000.
Well, if Bitcoin is the Facebook, right? But if Bitcoin is a mind space, then it could go to zero. That's $1 billion question. So I cannot answer for sure. But in the long run, then it will become a monetary system of the world. Because if you study the history, economic history, the monetary system of the world changes every 50 years. Right? During the Industrial Revolution, that's when the UK became a super major power. Right? Back, it was in the United States. We haven't even discovered this island yet. During the the steam engine, invention of the steam engine, colonization era, the UK was the superpower. Back then, they used the gold standard, gold as a medium of exchange. But before that, we used to use like shells, bartering system, greystones as money. But it evolves every generation to generation. But let's not go back too far. Let's go back to the 1717. That's when the gold standard was invented. Then in 1819, that's when the wide adoption of gold standard happened. But since the UK was a superpower back then, and there was 3 currencies circulated in the country. There were gold, silver, and copper circulating in the country. Then the UK, citizens were doing arbitrage every day because there were 3 currencies. They had to appoint a mathematician, a great mathematician called Sir Isaac Newton, to neutralize currency every day. That was his job back then. But one day he miscalculated the ratio between gold, silver, and copper. So he drive out the silver and copper out of England. And England became the pure gold standard country. And since they were colonizing everyone, import, export, import, pepper from India, tea from China. So England kind of forces everyone to pay them in gold, and it creates a snowball effect. Or even and then snowball effect. So more and more people are using gold standard. I think China was one of the latest country to abandon silver. A lot of silver were in China back then, not as much gold as a medium of exchange. And then when we reached the First World War in 1914 to 1918, 4 years, First World War, Germany lost this First World War, and they had to pay remuneration to the winner of the war in gold. So it creates a snowball effect, expedite the process. Then we had the Spanish flu in 1920 after the First World War, right? Plus, gold is has a lot of friction. It's deflationary. What does that mean? It means it takes time to mine new gold. Supply of gold is constant, but the productivity rate of the world is increasing exponentially. We can produce coffee, produce bread at a much cheaper, faster rate. There are more goods and services around, but the medium of exchange was scarcity, because we cannot find gold to fill in the demand, to satisfy the demand on time. So what happened back then was a deflationary environment, meaning that if you are the owner of a gold bar, you can maybe buy one cup of coffee today. The next day, this same gold bar can buy 2 cups of coffee. The next day, 3 cups of coffee. So what happened was people delayed consumption, future consumption, because they realized that this gold bar that they're holding worth more and more every day. So companies cannot sell goods and services because people delayed consumption, right? So they had to let people go. So we had the Great Depression in 1929 because of the failure of the gold standard. 33% of the population there back then lost their job. People were holding onto their gold. It was deflationary. So we changed to a different system called the Bretton Woods system. Right? And by the way, the Great Depression, the economy was down for 10 years. That's why we use the word depression. We didn't use the word recession. Recession is when the economy is quiet for 6 months to 18 months. That was in 2008. It was the Great Recession. But in 1929, it was the Great Depression, 10 years. And we got out of the Great Depression because we engaged in the Second World War in 1939. Right? That's when at the start of Second World War, 1939 to 1944, Second World War. So the reason why we got out of the Great Depression was because the government was fiscal policy to stimulate the economy, but in terms of wartime production, not consumer production, wartime production, right, to engage in the Second World War. So we got out of the Great Depression, and war was costly. That's when the American came to power after Second World War. England lost its position. And at the end of the Second World War in December 1944, then in 1945, the next year, America called a meeting and said, guys, I'm the big guy now. Gold is, has a failure, has this deflationary aspect. Let's use US dollars. And I will create what I call the IMF or the World Bank in 1945. We call it the Bretton Woods system. Everyone, let's use US dollars, but I promise that for every dollar printed, there's the equivalent of amount of gold, keeping in the United States, in the World Bank, IMF in 1945. And because it's deflationary, one gold bar can buy a house now. You cannot buy, you cannot slide gold flake into to buy a coffee cup. It's too expensive, the purchasing power. So yes, let's use dollars. It has smaller denomination, a dollar bill, $10 bill. But for every dollar, there's the equivalent amount of gold keeping on the frozen accounts. But same issue happened because after the Bretton Woods system, productivity has gone up every year. Then there is a demand for gold because US needs to print more US dollars to act as a medium of exchange, to circulate things around. And what's worse is that the US engaged in Vietnam War, right? And when the government engages in a war, they don't care about anything else. They only have one thing in their mind, to win the war. So they print money to finance the war. Then the Bank of France, Central Bank of France, was the first one that realized the situation. So they decided to send US dollars on the ship to America to redeem the gold portion back to their country. That's when the world realized that the United States didn't really have gold backing US dollars in a 1-to-1 ratio manner. That's when in 1971, President Nixon announced, guys, since I'm still the superpower, let's use US dollars, but I don't need any gold to back US dollars anymore. I'm still the big guy, right? We have a new system called post-Bretton Woods system. We're using fiat currency. Right? If you type the word fiat in Google, it translates to something with 0 or no intrinsic value. We have been using currency since 1971. We call it the Nixon shock right? President Nixon shock in economics. We no longer use money, we use currency, because currency is not money. Currency is a promissory note from the government. If you see a dollar bill, it's written, it's not money, it's a promissory note, right? And after that, the US has the ability to print unlimited amount of money, right? We have QE1, QE2, QE3. Eventually, we could have QE 500 probably after COVID. You know, the government is printing out unlimited amount of money now, right? And we have a new issue called inflation. The opposite of the Great Depression, deflation back then. Now we have the new issue called inflation. What does that mean? After 1971, the purchasing power of dollar has gone down every year. And the house prices has gone up since 1971, every year, because government can abuse the power now. Even though our productivity has gone up so fast compared to the previous years or generation, but if you're printing out more currency than the productivity level, then we have inflationary issue. But in 1929, the issue was opposite. The productivity has gone up so fast now, number of goods and services, but the currency that we used, or the money that we used back then, was scarce, cannot find enough gold on time. So it creates a deflationary pressure. It's the opposite now. And in 2008, we had this crisis, and 2020, we have this COVID crisis. So just a quick history there. You see two patterns, right? The first one is that the monetary system of the world changes every 50 years. Second pattern is that it happens after the crisis. 1929, the Great Depression, 1945, the Bretton Woods system, 1971, post-Bretton Woods, or the fiat currency system, right? And if you notice, this year, we're entering the year 2020. The last time that we changed our monetary system was in 1971. Is that 50 years? That's roughly 49 years. Meaning that if the statistics is correct, by the year 2021, there must be a big change in the monetary system of the world, which is clear. Now, Libra is coming out, Libra 2.0. By the end of this year, Libra is coming out on the west side. On the east side, digital yuan is coming out. Now, the Chinese government is testing on 4 provinces in China, right? And they bring 19 other companies to test this system. WeChat, Alipay, JD.com, Starbucks, McDonald's, right? Or even in the provinces that they are testing, they're testing in Shenzhen, Suzhou, Chong'an, and Chengdu. You know, even in Suzhou, they're paying 50% of the transport workers in digital yuan now. Beta testing. So we don't really need to wait till next year until we reach 50 years of monetary system of the world. We see clear trends. Even the IMF or the World Bank, the head of the IMF or World Bank came out and said, if you are the head of the of the central bank and you're not studying or you're not researching about cryptocurrency, too late. I'm sorry, you're too late. You know, even the Bank of Thailand now, we have a special team called Internon team, digital currency team, 30 people devoted specifically for digital currency development. Right? They had this team since 2017. 3 years already. The trend is so clear. So to answer your friend's question, it's a bit long of an answer, but I need to give you this history so they understand that in the long run, you know, right now the US government is printing out unlimited amount of money and it is devaluing US dollars, and debt to GDP ratio for the United States is not that great. And it's not very effective in stimulating the economy. Even in England, they have negative bonds now, like Japan, negative interest rate now. So we need a new system for the monetary system of the world. We are in the most exciting fintech era, I would say. That was the first answer to the first question. But Ethereum is completely different. I see Ethereum as a completely different protocol, an internet protocol, and it can coexist. Right? The best way to understand protocol is a common language for different people from all walks of life over the internet who don't really trust each other to be able to work together on a single problem. Right? The most popular protocol is HTTP. If you go to your browser, it is a language to HTTP. It is a common language that allows you to access information in the same manner. Or if you're using emails, there's this SMTP protocol to allow us to send emails in the same manner. Right? Or if you swipe your credit card, this green key, SSL, security protocol, right, is a common language. Or on the offline world, this electric plug, on different countries, we have 2 holes, 3 holes. These are protocols, right, on different, how you communicate. So I see Bitcoin as one protocol for money transfer or to keep, to store wealth in countries with no financial stability, like in Venezuela right now, in Argentina right now. People prefer to store their wealth in Bitcoin, because imagine if you're a billionaire in Venezuela, right? You wake up the next day, all those $1 billion that you have in the bank can only buy one piece of bread. Right? One piece of bread is hyperinflation. So you would quickly convert, before you go to bed, you would convert everything to Bitcoin, right? You don't want to wake up the next day.
It's like the Zimbabwe dollar, right? You use $100 trillion to buy 1 can of Coke.
Yeah, I mean, if you study the history of economics of the world, it happens previous times, many times. Even in the World War in Germany, there's this one guy who has been saving all his life, keeping money all his life. He wanted to buy a house. After the war emerged, there's this hyperinflation in Germany, right? All the money that he has been saving can only buy one piece of bread, instead of buying a house. So that's, in countries with no financial stability, Bitcoin would act as a protocol for that, to keep wealth, to send money across at a much cheaper rate, right? A currency for the decentralized nation, the internet nation. Every country must have its currency that matches its nature. I think Bitcoin is the currency of the internet nation, which has decentralized function to it. But Ethereum is a completely different protocol. This is the same as, HTTP is not fighting against SMTP protocol or TCP/IP protocol or SSL protocol. They're different languages solving different internet issues. There's so many internet issues, right? So Bitcoin is solving one problem. Ethereum is solving another problem. They can coexist. Ethereum has this smart contract, embedded to its blockchain function, and we call it the best way to understand Ethereum is to call it a generalized platform. What is a generalized platform? It is a platform that allows people to create their own things very easily without needing a lot of skills. For example, for those people who don't really know how to do online advertising in Thailand, they would go and create a fan page on Facebook and do marketing on Facebook without needing a lot of skills. Or for those people in Thailand who doesn't really know how to open a shop online, they would go to Amazon, Lazada, Shopee, and create a shop on Amazon, Lazada, Shopee. These are generalized platforms. For Ethereum, it's the same. For those who don't really know how to create your own blockchain, who don't really know how to create your own coin, you use Ethereum as a generalized platform. It is a platform that allows you to create your own protocol easily without a lot of skill. It is a generalized platform with its smart contract feature. So to answer the question, I think they can coexist and they solve different internet issues. They are different protocols.
So they're not really trying to compete with one another. That's what you're trying to say, right?
Yes, I think they are not trying to compete with one another. You cannot compare HTTP protocol to SMTP protocol or TCP/IP or SSL. They're different issues, internet issues.
Now, you were talking about how Bitcoin and cryptocurrency has a blockchain, and that because it is open source, in fact, anybody could go in and, as you use the term frequently, I assume is the right term, which is to fork the so-called the what do you call it, the protocol out, and they can create their own one. Now, then a lot of people could kind of like mimic the white paper and the criteria and the ideology behind creating a new cryptocurrency, right? So you can fork it out. People are smart enough, they can fork it out. They can create all these papers and stuff like that and paint a very beautiful picture about how we gonna revolutionize the world. Now, actually my next question would be, right, how, using your experience as the co-founder of a exchange as well, but how do you really qualify upcoming projects? So there are gonna be new way of saying things and all this kind of thing, but then we also know that out of 1,000 projects, maybe only the top how many percent is really of, you know, a decent use, and then the rest of them are just riding the wave. Probably they are not a fraud, but they just, you know, didn't have what it takes. So in your opinion, how can we better filter out the coins, and what are probably some of the prerequisite, the criteria that you will say that, okay, if they don't have this, don't even consider?
I mean, that's a tough question. It's like assessing which company is going to win, which company is the fake ones.
Okay, but then if you say that, then I would say that, you know, companies, for example, if they're transparent enough, you know, you have financials to go through, you have historical data, 10, 20 years. Of course, some of the coins doesn't have it, but even for companies, let's just say we go list a US company going for IPO for the first time, and every day there's so many companies going IPO, right? I can't just say that there's nothing for me to anchor on, like I can't make a decision based on anything else, right? So there is some form of data for me to look at. You know, if the company has been profitable in terms of EBITDA and everything, they are positive and stuff like that, we could probably consider. Now, of course, cryptocurrency is a different field, but is there anything that we can look out for in terms of, you know, trying to pick it up?
Sure. So everything is fully regulated, by the way, in Thailand. But before I go into that, let's talk about companies quickly. You know, in the internet.com boom, there's this company called pets.com versus amazon.com. Everything looks so real, right? They are fighting each other, right? Those who invested in pets.com is bankrupt. Those who invested in Amazon is a billionaire. Who knows which one is going to win? Right? These are two good intention companies, right? with good intention. Or if you say the company is not listed in the stock exchange, we can see profitability. Really, can you say about Uber? Can you say about, you know, many companies, Luckin Coffee, for example? These are IPO companies. They are not making profitability, right? They're making a loss every quarter, but they are listed in the stock exchange. And do you know the average lifespan of the S&P 500 companies now? Back then was 75 years. That was the average of a, you know, S&P 500.
20?
No, down now is in the internet century now is down to 7 years. Right? It's equally, you know, not equally risky, but it's hard to predict which one is going to be the winner when the world is moving so fast. Coming back to the cryptocurrency or the tokenization part, the process is very similar. Now in Thailand, we have a regulated exchange. Think of us as a NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange, a secondary market. Our job is to create a listing criteria to screen out bad projects before listed on our exchange. So we have our own listing criteria, very similar to the stock exchange. They have their own listing criteria. You must meet this revenue requirements, capital registration, you know, financial, etc., etc. We have our own listing criteria. Then on the primary market side, we have what we call the ICO portal company, a portal company. Their responsibility is to screen, to write white papers, and to work with the regulators to remove all the doubts, to underwrite new assets. Same as if you were to compare this to the previous generation or to the company's industry or stock exchange industry, we can call these guys investment bankers 2.0. You know, instead of Goldman Sachs underwriting Warren Buffett shares to go public on the stock exchange, now you can underwrite new coins to represent a piece of condo, or, you know, a square meter of condos, fractional ownership of condos, of land, of gold, of intangible assets, of celebrity reputation, brand. And once everything is done, the SEC has a final approval. Same process as going public. Instead of, you know, underwriting shares, you are underwriting coins now, representing the same thing, fractional ownership of the property, right, whether tangible or intangible. Then we see if it matches our listing criteria, then we list on the exchange. And but after going through all these due diligence process, primary market, secondary market process, can we guarantee if it's pets.com or amazon.com or Uber or Facebook? If it's Uber, they're making a loss every quarter. I don't know if they're going to survive. If it's Facebook, growing, all the time, Amazon, 30% increase even during COVID, right? All-time high now. We don't know. It's the market to decide. We can only do the follow the framework to fill out the bad actors from the ecosystem.
But but we could safely say that, right? Those who pass your criteria, we don't know how long they will last. But we know for sure that those that doesn't pass the criteria is definitely not safe for investing, putting your money down. I think that would be an easier way to filter out. Yeah. So just a few more questions, right? One of the things that a lot of people were a bit concerned as well was in 2018, actually, there was a very big crash in terms of cryptocurrency as a whole. Bitcoin was at 20,000, 19 point something, and then it came down all the way down by a lot. Then, why did it happen? That's one of the questions. And of course, how often are we seeing this kind of major volatility? Because you're talking about at least like a 50% crash or something within a pretty short period of time. So what was the reason behind it? Then are we gonna see this in the future? Because you said that as the swimming pool becomes the ocean, when the fat man jumps in, there's not so much of a splash. And I assume in 5, 10, 20 years time, we're gonna turn into an ocean for cryptocurrency. But are we still gonna see this kind of volatility?
Sure. So you have to understand how Bitcoin blockchain works to explain the price movement, right? This is the third halving that happened this month, right? What is Bitcoin halving? Bitcoin halving, right? There is this thing called Bitcoin halving. The supply rate of Bitcoin is halved every 4 years. It's embedded on the Bitcoin blockchain protocol from the start, meaning that I entered the space from the first Bitcoin halving, from 50 Bitcoin per block per hash function that comes out every 10 minutes, right? To 25 block, to 25 Bitcoin per block, right? And the first halving, meaning that so in the first 4 years, for every hash function that miners were able to solve, they would receive 50 Bitcoin in terms of rewards, right? But after we reach the 5th year, the first 10 minutes of the 5th year, that reward is down to 25 Bitcoin. It's been halved. Then every 10 minutes from there, every miners that found the solution through the cryptographic hash function that is coming out every 10 minutes would receive 25 Bitcoin instead of 50 Bitcoins. After that, the next 4 years, when we reach the 9th year, the first 10 minutes of the 9th year, the reward has been halved again, from 25 Bitcoin to 12.5 Bitcoin per block. Then every 10 minutes onwards, it's 12.5 Bitcoin per block per hash function that is being solved. What happened this month was that reward, we are reaching the third half Bitcoin halving event. Now, every miners that found out solution to the cryptographic hash function that is coming out every 10 minutes, they would receive 6.25 Bitcoin per block per hash function instead of 12.5 Bitcoin, right? And these are the profitability of the miners, right? Before back then, in the last 4 years, they would receive 12.5 times, I don't know, $9,000. These are profitability, but there are costs also in running in finding hash function. They have to pay for electricity. They have to buy a special machine, right? Factory farm to compete against everyone to find the hash function, because it comes out every 10 minutes and there can only be one winner. And if you study mathematics, cryptographic hash function has this one-way unique property. Is a one-way function, meaning that you cannot use algebra or reverse engineer to solve the issue. The only way you can solve the issue is to find the R value, random number, like shooting in lottery. So you need to increase your computing power. So you increase the frequency of guessing.
So
you
it's like
increase the
solving the
probability.
enigma, right?
So yeah, so you have to keep shooting the random number, and to win, you have to have the highest frequency. So you increase the guessing probability, right? To be the first winner, and the more computing power, the higher the probability of winning. And these are costs for miners, right? And the difficulty level adjusts every 10 minutes, meaning that collectively on average, if this hash function, say the hash function number 1 comes out, and on aggregate, the number of power that is helping to find the R value worldwide has been found within 8 minutes, meaning that a lot of people are fighting over to find the Bitcoin, the new Bitcoin, 12.5 Bitcoin, right? Then the next hash function that comes out the next 10 minutes, they would reduce the R value to be a smaller value to make it more difficult, to require more computing power collectively to find the R value. On average, it would force everyone to find the next equation within 12 minutes, because in the previous equation, everyone found it within 8 minutes. So to make sure that on average, there's a 10 minutes gap between every equation, the difficulty level adjusts. And the higher the difficulty level, the more costly the cost for miners to mine Bitcoin, because they need to invest in higher computing power, in electricity.
Yeah.
Right. And if you see the graphs, the mining cost has gone up since in the last 10 years, since inception of the Bitcoin blockchain, meaning that the cost is rising. And imagine if you are the miner and you only make 5% profit on the difference between 12.5 Bitcoin times $9,000 minus the cost of computing power, electricity. Then after this month, right, the middle of this month, instead of having 12.5 Bitcoin, you're now receiving 6.25 Bitcoin. That means your profitability and the price stays at the same level. That means the profitability is halved, reduced by 50%, but initially you only made 5% profit. So you're making a huge 45% loss right away. And when it's not profitable, these miners are not like munificent people. They do it because they're selfish. They're maximizing their own profit, right? So there are two possible scenarios. The first one is that they drop out because it's no longer profitable. They're making 45% loss because the difficulty level is the same. They require the same set of computers, electricity cost, the same, but their reward is halved because the price stays the same. But instead of having 12.5 Bitcoin, they receive 6.25 Bitcoin. So maybe 50% of the miners drop out. What happens is that in the next 10 minutes, the difficulty level would adjust. Instead of finding the equation within 10 minutes, people would be finding it within 5 minutes, right? To adjust, to make sure that on average, people can find the new equation within 10 minutes gap. The R value would get bigger for everyone to find R value easier. That's the first case scenario. So half of the miners drop out. The difficulty level dropped by 50% because price hasn't moved. Or the second scenario, the number of difficulties stays the same, the number of miners stays the same, but the price must be doubled because the quantity is dropped by half, right? Instead of having, say, if you are making 5% profit and your cost is the same, but all of a sudden, instead of having 12.5 Bitcoin, you're now down to 6.25 Bitcoin, meaning that the price has to go up twice to account for the same 5% profit. Instead of 9,000, price has to go up to 18,000 Bitcoin now, $18,000 per Bitcoin. to keep the same 5% profitability, because it's the two function, right? Price times the quantity, right? 12.5 is gone down 50% to 6.25. So to keep the same profit, the price must go up by double. So there are two possible scenarios. Either half of the miners drop out and the difficulty level drop massively, or the difficulty level stays the same, requires the same computing power, the same electricity, but the price must double for everyone to be profitable, to maximize profit, to stay selfish, right? To maximize their own profit. And in the last two halving, the difficulty level didn't drop. It's gone up. People get, everyone get into this space more and more every year. Meaning that in the first halving, the Bitcoin price went from $11 to $1,150 after the first halving, from 50 Bitcoin to 25 Bitcoin per block. The first 4 years, price went up from $11 to $1,150. But that's too much, because then instead of having 5% profit, the miners are gaining 50% profit. Now people are fighting, right? So the difficulty level adjusts, or the price must drop to correct, to do the correction, because they are making too much profit. It is the equilibrium. They must find equilibrium, their own equilibrium price in the long run. So what happened in the first halving was that price went up too much versus the computing cost. So the price went up from $11 to $1,150, but then the price gradually dropped to every year until it reaches about $200. Then the second halving happened. I came in the first peak, $1,000. This is when I entered the space in 2013, right after the halving was in 2012, middle of 2012, right? Then the price is going up in 2013 to $1,000. And then it gradually dropped to 600, 500, 400, down to 200. Then the second halving was at the end of 2016, right? 2012, 4 years fast forward, 2016. On the at the end of 2016, price went from $650 to $20,000, because the difficulty level is up here now. It's no longer profitable for the price to stay at $11. Even the price dropped to $200. It's still higher than the pre-halving price at $11, because the cost of mining has gone up every year, right? Miners needs to be profitable to stay, to confirmation, Bitcoin confirmation. So the price has gone up from $650 to $20,000. But again, that's when everyone started to become excited back in 2017. It didn't go up right away in 2016. It takes about 6 months, right, in 2017 for the price to go up. Bitcoin price to go up to 3,000 to 20,000. But again, the difficulty level is not really rising that much. So it's self-correct, equilibrium price. Price has gone down to about 8,000, 9,000. But look, 9,000, 8,000 is still higher than the pre-mine, the second event, $650. $8,000 is still higher, but it's not as high as $20,000. And then we hit the third halving. See, from currently it's $9,000. If we carry on the same pattern and the same logic, price would be even higher than $20,000, and then it would self-correct to the long-run equilibrium, right? I don't know the long-run equilibrium of this, the cost of mining versus the Bitcoin price.
When is the third halving?
Already happened, right?
Already happened?
This month, middle of this month.
Oh, so did it shoot up?
Not yet, not right away. If you notice, in the previous two halving, price didn't go up right away, right? The halving happens in the middle of 2012. Price didn't go up until 2013, right? Or in 2016, it was the end of 2016, the second halving. Price didn't go up until the middle of 2017, and we just had the third halving this month. So price is not going up yet. Or I don't know. I cannot tell you. It could be two scenarios. The first one is price must be doubled, right? The first scenario is price must be doubled for the miners, for most of the miners to stay, profitable. Or the second possible scenario is that half of the miners became bankrupt and left the industry, and the difficulty level dropped. I don't know. These two scenarios could happen. It's a $1 billion question.
The difficulty level is actually an active mechanism. It's not really like a fixed one, right? So
Adjust every 2 minutes.
the people on the blockchain can adjust the difficulty based on how much people are actually mining at that point of time.
Yes. So I mean that there's a third scenario also, that the computer chip has been getting cheaper and cheaper every year, so that the cost of buying machines has dropped significantly. So maybe at this price, at 8,000, it doesn't need to be doubled because the cost of buying mining machine has dropped 10 times. I don't know, not just 1 times. But this is clear because in 2009, computer chip was $20,000. And in the next 5 years to 2014, the price has dropped to $79, 250 times the prices of computer chip has dropped. So that's another factor. The difficulty level could continue to go up. The electricity cost could continue to go up. The Bitcoin price could still stay at this level, but the computer chip or the machine is getting 250 times cheaper in the next few years. Moore's law, right? There are 3 possible scenarios here.
Yeah, I think you did a very good job in terms of giving us the basic knowledge as well, and the context as to how the cryptocurrency fits in and how it works. I actually kind of understand a bit more as well. I guess the audience as well. Now, I just have one last question before we just end this session, and because we were on the topic of actually mining, and some people use the word farming. Can anybody, with, for example, $500,000, put enough computer together and start mining? What does it take to be a miner? Are we better off to be a speculator for cryptocurrency, or is there still a more conservative and decent way of making money from the cryptocurrency field by mining Bitcoin, for example? Are we better off as a speculator, or there is still an opportunity for us to go into the mining field?
The answer is there are opportunities everywhere. It depends on your skill set. Right? For my skill set, I better off opening up an exchange, a marketplace for people to trade. I make money this way, right? For other, because I'm not good at trading, daily trading, I'm not good. But those people who are good at trading, they don't need to open up an exchange to hedge their risk, because for exchange there's no risk. I'm a business owner, right? I'm not a trader or investor or speculators. Then it depends on skill sets. Those who are good at mining, found a cheaper way to get electricity compared to competitors. For some reason, you negotiated the best deal for electricity cost. Then obviously that's your strength. So there are opportunities everywhere. And for the cryptocurrencies to work, there are different players. Different players must coexist. There must be exchanges, there must be traders, there must be speculators, there must be long-term investors, there must be miners. There are opportunities everywhere. Depends on your strength, I would say. That's my answer.
Okay. So I know the other time we spoke as well, and then I was asking if because I already know that if I have a Thai bank account, I can open an account with BigCup and start trading as well. But moving forward, what plans do you have for BigCup in terms of when are you guys gonna become regional as well, or at the minimum accept international clients, at least from the ASEAN countries, so that the audience here can probably know, when they can get started to trade and stuff like that. Maybe you can share with us your plans,
Sure. We are planning to make sure that our headquarters, everything is stabilized in Thailand first. We haven't got the plan to expand overseas yet. There are a lot to do even in Thailand, because Right now we have three blockchain companies, right? The exchange, the ICO portal, or blockchain application company, where we push blockchain beyond the financial system, beyond the token system. We use blockchain application to reduce cost, to improve efficiency. We have the academy to educate people, to educate corporation on digital transformation and blockchain applications, to educate the people, B2C, on how to open up cryptocurrency wallets, how to trade, how to buy and sell. So the opportunities in Thailand, we can expand to different players, just like the stock exchange. We can have primary market player like investment banking. You can have stock exchange. You can have education, stock tomorrow education. We can have money channel, the PR side of stock exchange markets to advise investors about different stocks prices. So I think we can replicate different players from the previous industry and localize to the new digital, we call it stock exchange 2.0 industry, where we can trade beyond just company stock, but we can tokenize anything that has value. We can even tokenize common stocks or corporate bonds, government bonds. We can tokenize public stocks. We can tokenize gold. We can underwrite, silver. We can underwrite a piece of land, tokenize them. People can co-own them in the same manner as Facebook shares. People can co-own them because one asset is too big for one person. Why don't we just fractionalize it in the same manner as stocks? But instead of holding digital shares, you hold digital coin. But this asset spans beyond just one subset of asset. Our market thesis is that in the future, securities would just be a subset of digital assets. We can have digital securities tokenized. We can have tables, land, condo, apartments tokenized. People can co-own them in the same manner as they're owning Facebook shares now. Everyone has, fractional, some parts of it, part owners, and they receive dividends based on how much they own this piece of assets, piece of land, piece of condo. We can rent it out, share the dividends in a fractional ownership manner. So I think there are a lot to do. And by the way, foreign customers can open accounts at GitHub already since the start of the company. They just need to do a KYC, verify their accounts. But in order to use our system properly, they must integrate a Thai bank account because it's a cash balance system, not a credit system, meaning that you need to top up your account first in Thai baht to buy and sell cryptocurrency. But you can even create a BitCup account without integrating your Thai bank account, but then you can only use limited function. You can only use the crypto side. Transfer in and out must be in crypto. You cannot touch the Thai baht. But once you add the bank account in, you can touch both fiat currency and cryptocurrency in one account. But it's open right now for anyone to use this regulated exchange in Thailand. Our plan is not to expand overseas yet until we push on these dreams to fruition first. The infrastructure is ready, the technology is ready, the legal part is ready, the legality part in Thailand is ready. It's just the market timing, adoption, and pushing to make it happen. That's left.
All right. So thank you very much for joining me tonight with the audience. And of course, I would just attach some of your, like your Instagram handle and maybe, the BitCup Facebook page and the website and all this so that the audience can, not only go themselves, but also share with their friends as well. For anybody interested in cryptocurrency. And of course, I don't know if your academy is teaching it in English or at the moment Thai, right?
Mostly Thai-based classes, but we also have foreign speakers that can help also if there is a demand. But we usually host meetups every month, and we usually co-host with different top companies. In the past, we co-hosted with IBM, and we talked about digital security, like all the security quite technical. Then we co-hosted with AWS, Amazon, on the topic about entrepreneurship. So we change topics every month, usually at the end of the month, and we bring in international speakers as well as BitCup speakers to educate the audience. This is the academy company, so there's rooms to play there.
I used to be very skeptical about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. But then, in this past 1 to 2 years, I think a lot of things have happened. And I kind of think that, like you say, Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, the majors one, are here to stay. I think sometimes it's a bit hard for people to admit that they are wrong, but I think I might be wrong in certain way I value things, because of course I always compare Bitcoin with oil, with silver, with gold, and a lot of commodities. But at the end of the day, if you start to understand why they are there, and of course, like you were trying to explain, the system behind making it the equilibrium, why, the difficulty increase and all this makes it rather protected assets. I think it makes it very clear. In fact, one of our attendees, she's actually from Myanmar as well. She said it was very interesting and really inspiring. Usually we have people from like all over ASEAN to come in. And I think the people who stay for the past 1 hour each, 2 hours, I think we got our brain massage by Top, because to be honest, I'm in the finance for so long, and some of the things that you say, especially with crypto, it was totally new. And so I was listening very attentively. So, I mean, I'm just paying as much attention as the attendees would. But I'm so happy that you join us. It's really definitely very interesting. And I know your journey as to how you started BitCup and all this could be another session, another time in terms of your entrepreneurial one. But I think cryptocurrency at this time was something more relevant and more important at this point of time. Because we also start to see it happening. And of course, just now there was one audience that sent in and was asking about halving, and then you just explained it. Everybody was reading on it on an article. I read about the halving about 3 times last month, but I didn't really know what it was. I thought it was like a stock split, basically your share split too and stuff like that. So you were explaining like how it went from 50 to 25 to 12.5, and then there's ongoing cost to keep it up. But also you mentioned a very good point, whether is it Amazon or Pets or, even company like Uber, which seems to have mega success on the outside, but deep inside they're bleeding. I think what you were trying to say is that we do our homework, and of course we treat each investment or speculation with a lot of care. I would say, especially with cryptocurrency, maybe diversification is the way to go. Not to go 100% full into one coin. Maybe split into some XPR and then Ether and Bitcoin. But definitely the major few are definitely a good way to start, right? You split your portfolio among 3 to 5 bigger coins, and you allocate according to weightage. It was a very, very enjoyable session with you, Top. I really want to thank you so much. I know it was 7 p.m. in Bangkok when you had to join us. I don't know where you were. I mean, okay, now that the session is off, were you working at home right now, or are you still going to the office?
No, we have been working at home for 4 months now, the whole company, 100 plus people. But luckily, we didn't get affected by COVID at all, because we had a digital vision for the company. Our business model is fully online. Even the way of work, we embraced 30 different digital tools to help us work smarter. And we did training in the last 2-3 years. The reason wasn't because I know that COVID is coming. I cannot predict the future, but the reason was because we need to scale the company quickly and to reduce the OPEX and CAPEX. And that's why we bring in technology to do the internal digital transformation, change the way people work to get the most productivity out of the input. But it turns out to be, greater than that, because we can work completely 4 months uninterrupted at home. We are not going back to the office still. Everything is fine. Volume is going up in the last 4 months. We're expanding fast now. I think we are reaching almost 150 people now in the company.
Nice. Okay. I mean, like I say, I told you guys that we could definitely learn something about the business part of things as well. But that one we will have to hold until next time. And so, Top, once again, thank you. And have a great evening. And of course, we will catch up when this whole thing ends. I'm definitely flying down to Thailand to meet some of you guys. But really, thank you very much for joining me, for agreeing to do this with us. We definitely learned a lot. And so, with that, I would just cut off this session and end it.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Bye-bye. All right, guys. So that's it for today. We will have to catch Eileen this coming Saturday. And remember, it's going to be 11 a.m. Okay, 11 a.m. It's not at night anymore for Eileen. It's going to be 11 a.m. So I'll see you all at Saturday. Bye-bye.